You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the FLOWMASTer Schwartz from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Thursday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. You know what's popping off in these crazy markets? Well, let's find out together, shall we? It is time once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THE OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you are diligently downloading. Say that 5 times fast. Of course, if you like what you hear this show, anything else we do, throw a like, a star, a comment, a rating, a review, whatever you are so inclined to do. We've been doing this for a while. We have a long history of reviews, but obviously the algorithms like the new stuff. So if you're coming in new, or if you haven't left a review yet, doing so would help new people continue to discover the content. Of course, if you want to discover more great content for yourselves, only one place to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Once you're there, you get awesome pro Q&As. Just had our buddy Mr. Scott Nations in the hot seat this week, tackling all of your vol and other associated questions. Of course, you get options oddities at the end of every week. Other fun content sprinkled in throughout there. Live access to this, everything else we do. Great giveaways and a whole bunch more. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. As we go around the horn, see who's joining us today. Let's go from east to south and then to close to home. Let's go out first to CBOE East. Even though I have it on good authority, he was just down the street here just a couple days ago. But now he's back in CBOE East. He is the FLOWMASTer himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from the aforementioned CBOE. Mr. FLOWMASTer, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks, Mark, and I'm always happy to join you. It's continues to be a very busy market. I'm sure we will talk about it, but We are flirting with one big level in SPX, that's for sure.
We are flirting with that indeed. And now we go to the South, listeners, where we are joined once again by the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, how go things in the Southern volatility mecca?
It's beautiful as always here in Austin. It's always sunny here, except for today where it's cloudy.
I thought it was only always sunny in Philadelphia, not in Austin.
No, Austin, we get what, 260 days a year of sun? It's pretty. Oh, it's more than 300. We get more than 300 days a year of sun here. It's pretty nice.
Getting off-show input, huh? Good off-show data. I like it. All right, good stuff there. As we keep rolling now, we dial the needle all the way back to the hinterlands of Chicago, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show to you as well. I know, Uncle Mike, are you having technical problems? Are you there, sir? You're muted. I see you there, but you seem to have muted yourself. Question is, can you unmute yourself? Apparently not.
I am unmuted.
There he is.
I'm honoring Andrew today.
Yes, Andrew's not
that
here.
bums me out. I do that like once every 2 years.
That was a good one. You were lost in the morass of mute for quite some time. All right, listen.
I kept talking and you kept saying, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm like, oh, crap. So,
someone's got to channel Andrew when he's not here, and someone's got to talk these markets, so let's do it. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And as the FLOWMASTER alluded to, we are playing around with some funky levels out here in the market. Everyone, of course, looking at this magical, mythical 5,000 level in the S&P. We flirted with it earlier this morning, then we kind of retreated away from it. Got back a little bit below 49.90, not a ton, I think like 48.87, something along those lines. Have since now rallied back up to about 49.95, 49.93, somewhere in that region. S&P flirting with unched on the day. They were slightly red, now they're kind of unched. Right now, NASDAQ up about a quarter, and the Dow off about 0.1%. So again, kind of a mixed day. Really depends where you're hanging your hat out there, what kind of day you're having. Small caps, as they are wont to do these days, just doing their own thing, up 1.1%. So again, another wild day out there in the hinterlands of small caps out there. All this a long way around to saying we've seen a lot of green on the screen since our last show. We've seen vol mostly come in, even though it does seem like it has set a floor right around the 13 handle. Right now, we're at about a 13.10. That puts us down almost 0.75 of a point, about 0.7 of a point from where we were on Monday. We keep threatening to break through, and maybe we get a little bit through the 13 handle, but not too much. Then we kind of rally back up. So it seems like 13, at least for now, is a bit of a support on the vol side. VVIX 86 actually up 3 points from where we were this time last week. On Monday. VXX 1410 down about half a point. UVXY 7.25 down a full half a point as well. SVIX back up north of a 40 handle, 40.7. That puts it up a whopping 2 points from the Monday show. I don't believe that's the 52-week high and the all-time high is 41.5. So not quite there today, but flirting with those levels. Got to 41.25 just today, listeners. So yeah, that's those are impressive levels for SVIX. And UVIX a little bit shy of the 11 handle, 10.90. Down about exactly a point from where we were on the Monday show. Let's go around the horn the opposite of the way we started. Let's go back out to the hinterlands of Chicago before he decides to mute himself again. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your eye out there in the markets today?
well, first off, can you hear me? I got to make sure I'm not muted now. I lost all my muting confidence
you have no faith in yourself anymore. I understand. I've lost all faith as well. But that was a long time ago. But yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, very good. Well, I mean, so let's start this off today with the happiest place on earth, Disney. Everybody liked what they had to say in their earnings announcement. So, good gosh, Disney is up 12% on the day. That's the big thing that's lighting up my screen today. And everyone hated it for a while, but today they like it, apparently. It's kind of like when you take your kids there and then they're happy for about the first 20 minutes, and then they're crabby the rest of the day because they're overtired, sunburn, and coming down off all the sugar that you give them. So naturally, you just buy more sugar and more rip-off toys, and that's the way it works. But thankfully, my kids only wanted to do Disney one day, and they said, can we go to the beach instead? And Mom and I were like, absolutely, no problem. We can do one day of Disney. We're totally fine with that. But with that being said, it's definitely it's the happiest place on earth today. That's for sure. Up 12%, almost 13% on the day. That's amazing. So we have that. Just a couple other things that are getting on my radar. The market's down, so that means Apple would have to be down, or Apple's down, so that means the market has to be down, apparently. Apple's down a little over $1 on the day. We keep saying it's like we can't quite get through that 200 mark with Apple. So in other words, we got to the 199 mark back in December. We were approaching that mark in July. And then we went up there again. It looked like we were going to make a run a couple of weeks ago. Then we went back down to the low 180s. And so now we're in the high 180s. So we're definitely in kind of a channeling phase with Apple at this point. But it's just that market cap of the $3 trillion market cap, the $200 price tag, a lot of that is working against Apple at this point. But Apple seems to be the resilient company that they have been for many, 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 many years. And that even though you have that big roadblock in front of you, they're still going to be right next to it as much as they possibly can. So seeing that, and then of course we have the market as a whole, S&P approaching the 5,000 level, which is a really big deal in terms of a key number. Can't quite break through that yet. It'll be interesting to see, number one, if we do, but also, if we have the old Jesse Livermore rule, and that whenever a stock breaks through a big number, a lot of times it continues to go higher. We'll see if that happens, if the S&P does indeed break those levels. In terms of the shiny stuff, down slightly on the day with gold, up 30 cents in the silver realm. Nothing too big in terms of the movement in and of itself. A couple other stocks of note, Taiwan Semiconductor, that's up over 5% on the day. So we have that. And then, yeah, that's what I'm seeing today. And that's what's lighting up my tape.
Yeah, it is definitely the happiest place on earth. Not too long ago, it was a little bit shy of the 80 handle, 78, 79. Now hitting 112 today, up about 40% from those levels, including a nice pop today out there. So, yeah, it's funny how the focus for so long has been on streaming out there when, the parks are still the biggest driver of their revenue out there and pretty much the core of just about everything they're doing out there these days. So intriguing to see what's been going on out there. Of course, that investment in Epic, also very interesting out there. That's certainly playing a part in people's optimism out there. But yeah, crazy stuff afoot out there in Disney. Not too long ago, they were hovering around the mid to low 80s, and people were saying maybe dark days ahead for Disney. And been a good couple of months out there in the land of the Diz as we keep on rolling out there to the land of the South. There is no Disney in Texas. There is a SeaWorld, though, so maybe they head over there. Mr. Meatball, sir, what is catching your eye out there in yet another crazy earnings season week?
Yeah, so, Disney's having a great day, and it's not even the biggest gainer. Take a look at ARM Holdings. The chip names have just been blowing it up. ARM is up. I wanted to say the last time I looked, it's up 55% right now. The vol is actually up on this move, up to 110%. Just a crazy move out of ARM Holdings. Really interesting mixed bag day. I think everybody's lamenting how narrow this rally has been. And we're starting to, I think it's making people nervous today. A little different. The Russell 2000 is the leader. The S&P is kind of the laggard of the group, along with the Dow. So really a weird mixed bag. You've got drugs down, utilities down, financials, industrials, and materials. Up are biotechs and communication services, energy, technology, and consumer staples and discretionary. So a really mixed bag of a market that is leading us to move absolutely nowhere. I think we've had a 10-point range today. Just absolutely mind-bogglingly boring today.
Mind-bogglingly boring unless you're in Disney or indeed in ARM. You're right. ARM kind of
or your short PayPal. You're having a good day for short.
Yeah, I guess you're having a good day there. You're right. ARM kind of languished for a while. They famously went public last year, then kind of sold off, and everyone thought this is maybe the end of this near-term chip boom. Obviously, we all know that is not what came to pass, but ARM did seem to be a bit of a laggard in that space, and it seems like they made it all up overnight. But bam, oh yeah, let's catch up, 50%. Us too. We want to be in that AI party. Again, I've said it many times. Just whisper the magical 2 letters of AI. Everyone should be doing this. Portillo's, AI in their burgers. Levi's jeans, I don't care what you do. Somehow AI has to be involved in your process, and bam, we use AI to make the burgers or the hot dogs or the Italian beef. Or we make AI to make the jeans, whatever the case may be. An AI jeans selector on their website. Whatever nonsense it is, just whisper it in your earnings call, and bam, 20, 30, 50% moves can be yours. I'm just handing out free money here, listeners. It's up to them if these companies want to take it. Let's go out now to the FLOWMASTER, a.k.a. CBOE East. Mr. FLOWMASTER, sir, a wild week. A lot of flow going on this week, so you must be a happy camper. What's catching your eye out there this week, sir?
Sure. So, yeah, it's been busy. Today is a funny day. I agree with the meatball. It's it's a weird one. We are flirting with this, this 5,000 level in SPX is a big deal. I'm old enough to remember my first, walking onto the CBOE floor in the late 80s. And I sent a text to a friend of mine. I said, remember where the S&P 500 was when we met? And it was around $270. So 5,000 now, that is about 30 years of time passing, but even 5 years ago, we're up 86% from 5 years ago. So it really is a testament to kind of long-term equities holding, that's for sure. And then, volatility is kind of low. Skew is very flat. There's really very little concern. I at this level, and I kind of get it. Maybe we'll go through it and we'll continue higher. And it is an election year, and the Fed is probably going to cut eventually. But man, oh man, with the way that the skew is, it is awfully cheap to put on a hedge. So I really am kind of telling some friends of mine that you need to at least look at what it would cost you to collar something. There's names out there that have a positive call skew, where you can actually, get a credit to put on some protection. So, it's exciting. But today's actually a very slow day for the index and ETF world, and it's the single stocks that are kind of driving the activity today.
It's funny. We were just talking about trading in high call skew environments on our options bootcamp show yesterday. Should have had you on, Mr. FLOWMASTER. We could have broken down some fun examples of colors. But you're right. These are the times when such things start to look attractive out there, listeners. Cheap puts, maybe juicier than you normally would expect calls. That's a good combo for, at the very least, a collar, maybe just a covered call if you want to go that route, or maybe just buying a put. Whatever floats your boat at the end of the day. But a lot of stuff can be done out there in these environments. Before we get to all the numbers I like to break down, Mr. Meatball, you've been breaking down a lot of zero-day activity out there of late, and you've been on me for a while to add a 0-day minute here to the show. So here we go, sir. Here is your minute. The floor is yours. What is lighting up your tape in the realm of 0-day today and indeed this week?
We continue to see pretty heavy activity kind of across the board. Today in 0DTE, let me get my 0DTE analytics open. We have just a ton of volume right at the money. The biggest strike trading is the 5,000s. They're long. They're trading so far on the day. 45,000 of those have traded. 42,000 the 4980s. The more pretty heavy activity kind of all around at the money. But we also have some really big volume in way out of the money stuff. And I know Henry has got his seller, but I hope these are closed, because we have on the 40s, the 45s, the 50s, the 55s, the 60s, the 65s, and the 35s and the 30s. All right. All of these are nickel bid or lower. So the quarters have traded 18,000 times their nickel 15. That's the 5,000 quarters. The 30s have traded 11,000 times their nickel a dime. The 35s are nickel a dime. They've traded 7,500 times, and you've got about 5,000 each going all the way up through 5. Pretty heavy activity on the way out of the money. You don't see as much on I'm sorry, you see plenty on the put side as well. So lots of spread in today, a lot of the same old, but I am interested that the most heavily traded contract is the 5,000s. So I wonder if that is a harbinger of things to come.
Not exactly surprising. We are flirting with that level all the time, but thank you for that zero DTE minute. You like that, listeners? You want more 0-day content in your lives? If so, hit us up. Let us know. I know some of our pro members are mixed on all things 0-day, but I know a lot of you out there like it. And it is fun, just informative to see what's going up out there. So intriguing stuff. Let's see if things are intriguing out there in the rest of the market, listeners. And the answer is yeah, surprisingly so. It kind of depends, again, where you're looking out there, listeners. Let's start in VIX land, as we are wont to do. VIX putting up some numbers today. 461,000 contracts on the tape out there in VIX land today. The ADV also ticking up. The ADV up to 734,000 today. So that's pretty active. That's pretty active contract again. Looking at right now, the big dog today, 51,000 so far of the March 18s. So intriguing. March 18s, not the strike I would have guessed on the outset, but again, that's why we crunch the numbers here, listeners. So that's what's driving, looks like at least leading the tape out there today. What's kind of lagging out there right now, surprisingly, is actually SPY. SPY usually this time of day, listeners, you're at least 4.1, probably even 4.3 or 4.5 million, if not more. Only 3.9 million on the tape right now. Maybe like, whoa, what's the big deal? But that's actually kind of light for SPY at this time of the show. The ADV, though, still looking robust, 8.7 million. I'm a pretty firm believer SPY will make it up in the second half out there, but still not exactly a banger day here for SPY. Same deal for the S. I know Mark was just breaking down the 0-day paper, but there's not a ton going on out there right now from a overall volume perspective. SPY at about 1.38 million contracts on the tape. The ADV is hanging out at about 3.3 million out there, listeners. So yeah, not exactly a super robust day out there in the S or SPY. Let's see if small caps can make it up. And the answer is, not really. 627,000. We've obviously seen them much higher at this time of the show in the past as well. The ADV looking still pretty robust, 1.33 million. So they're right around halfway to that point. But usually we see small caps this time of the show, I'd say around maybe 800,000 on a decent day. So 627, a little bit light out there. And let's get to the Qs as well. The Qs, 1.91 million. So that's actually also a little light out there as well. We usually see the Qs almost like clockwork, 2.2 roughly in that time frame this time of day. So the ADV, 3 3/4, probably going to get there today. But what's really interesting, listeners, again, it is earnings season. People wonder if it drives some paper. And the answer is yes, especially on days like today. Man, this is a banger. I have to go back and see. Maybe I'll check in with the FLOWMASTER and see what he thinks. But in terms of how long we've been looking at this, I can't recall another day where it cost you this much paper to break into the top 10, listeners. Yeah, this is a banger. It cost you 460,000 contracts to break into the top 10. Now contrast that to some days in August or December where it cost you about $1.60. You're talking 300,000 more contracts just to break into the top 10. That gets us to our old friend, the artist formerly known as Facebook. You know it's a banger day when Meta's all the way down at the bottom of the top 10, and it's already at 460,000 contracts. So, man, that is a banger. Meta taking a rare break today. Of course, they could sell off a bit if they wanted. They could sell off 200 handles and still be a banger year for Meta out there. Just crazy what's been going on out there. Off $3.50 today, about 0.75%. Trading right around 466.25. Good for, again, 460,000 contracts. Number 9, Amazon. Again, Amazon all the way down to number 9. You know it's a banger day. You know some names are probably sneaking into the top 10 that don't normally make it because of earnings. You could probably guess what a couple of them are, but we'll get there. Number 9, Amazon, 170 and about 1/4, off about 1/4 today. This one's kind of looks like about a little over $3, a little under $3 range out there today, about $2.60 or so. But intriguing stuff for Amazon. Number 9, 465,000. Number 8, back to crypto we go. It is Mara, 482,000 contracts, 2040 right now, up about 280 again. So this thing again, just on the rampage, up to almost 30, back down to 16, 15, now back up to about 20 and a half. My goodness, it was trading 16 just yesterday. So up about 4 handles, actually exactly 4 handles. It was 1640 yesterday. It's 2042 now. My goodness, just in the last pretty much 24 hours. So again, if you're looking for vol and you can't find it elsewhere, you could do worse than checking out the crypto space. Mara, number 8. Number 7, yes, the fruit company, all the way down at number 7, listeners. This is the topsy-turvy day. Up is down, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Apple, number 7, 541,000. 188.20 off about $1.20 today. So again, can the market remain green or get green when Apple is red? I guess we'll find out, listeners. But again, Apple all the way down at number 7. Why is it all the way down at number 7? Well, it got kicked to the curb by a new player in the A tech name. This is ARM. We were just talking about, I expected them to actually be higher. Something moves 50%, you expect a lot of option flow. And ARM delivering 597,000. Again, you'd be forgiven for expecting maybe even 1 million, just how much underlying action is going on out there. So just a tick under 600K for number 6. That is ARM. We just talked about it. It's up 57% now. Man, they're just making up for the entirety of the last year just overnight, it seems like. My goodness, ARM. Number 6. Number 5, off to PayPal. They are not feeling the love. Off 7.10 or a little over 11%. Trading 56.15. Good for number 5. 621,000 contracts. Number 4, yeah, it's Diz. 673, up 12.5, or about 12.6%, trading about 111.70 out there right now. And again, good for 673,000. And yeah, Diz a banger today as well. The rest of them, well, maybe not. Maybe we'll see. The number 3, you can probably guess. It's NVIDIA, 702.25, up about $1.25. So a comparatively mild day for NVIDIA, but still 870 on the tape for them. Number 2 is a name the Rock Lobster and I were just talking about. Might have been on Oddities last week and just kind of saying, man, he was hoping for more out of it, hoping it would catch up. Well, it hurt him. Palantir, number 2, 1.1 million contracts on the tape today. It is up 52% in the last 8 days. My goodness, it was trading 16.75 on Monday and past 5 days, actually, up $8.50 now, 52%, trading almost $25 today. So again, a lot of people playing catch up for lost time. And then number 1, still, all of this madness, still, king of the roost is Tesla. 1.49 million contracts, 188.94 out there today, listeners. So intriguing day out there. Mr. Flowmaster, you're crunching all the numbers out there day in, day out. I said 460,000 contracts to break into the top 10. That, to my mind, is the busiest single name day we've seen, at least on this show, in terms of breaking into the top 10. How does today stack up according to your flow metrics so far, sir?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, it is really interesting, right? We're on track for overall volume around 46.5 million. So that's about 1 million above average. But it's to see it in the single stock and specifically in the calls. I'm looking at 18 million single stock calls. That's 7% above normal, while the put volume in the single stock world is light. So it's oh wait, hang on a second. I'm gonna give you some slightly wrong information there. I was actually getting my mind blown by one of the odd blocks, which is in ARM. So I'm excited to get to that. So the call to put ratio in the single stock world today is 2-to-1. Okay, the total volume there is 20% above normal, but it's really almost all on the call side. So I mean, we've talked about how the meme stock kind of craze, it never quite went away. And, I actually ran some data for some traders who were just kind of astounded by the notional value of NVIDIA in January, which was really like off the charts. So it's a single stock kind of mode we're in. And like I said, the index world, it's quiet. I think that I think people are impressed by the 5,000 level, but the action today is single stock.
Action indeed, listeners, and a lot of this driven by earnings. Of course, luckily for you, we got some data up there for you, hot off the presses. You know the names that are popping off this week. I won't read them all off. We'd be here for the rest of the show. Got some big names popping off. We also have some hot off the presses move results reports. You can probably guess how some of these worked out, like Disney popping off last night. They were pricing in 5.4%. Yeah, spoiler alert, they beat that, listeners. At the time we ran this report earlier this morning, they were up about 10%. Obviously, they're up about 12, almost 12.5% now. So they are more than 2x their straddle. So looking pretty good there. PayPal looking good in the wrong direction, but from a vol perspective, outperforming. They were pricing in about 8%, and they ended up delivering, again, by the time we ran this nut report, they had delivered, looks like a little over 10%, about 10, if I could type the right ticker, there we go, about 10.1%. And right now they're off about 11.3%. So again, we were saying underperformance being priced into a lot of these names, but I mean, right now we're seeing a lot of outperformance. Like, look at this. I mean, ARM was only pricing in 8.7%, listeners. That might be the vol scoop of the decade there. Just overnight, 8.7. They deliver 55%. I mean, my goodness. These are crazy waters we are all hanging out here, listeners. Wynn Resorts, they're pricing in 5.5%. They delivered 6.3%. So a little bit of outperformance there as well. A lot of others popping off before the bell, but those are some of the big ones. After the bell today, we got the Duke Energy, aka the Duck, DUK. They popped off before the bell today. Excuse me. And they were pricing in 2.1%. They delivered 2.3%. So not a lot of excitement out there in the Duck. So instead, we will keep rolling out here. Let's look at the season right now, listeners. How is it lining up? And again, if you want to check out all these tickers, and there are literally dozens, if not hundreds more, I do not have time to get to here. You want to get to Robinhood after the bell on the 13th, or Lyft, or Airbnb, we got them all for you, and hundreds more. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go to find all of that. Let's scroll. Crocs coming up soon. Everyone loves Crocs. Yeti, let's keep rolling. I'm getting distracted, listeners. So many tickers, so little time. We're at 130% for the season right now, listeners. So again, we're at 140%. Last show, I told you that was unsustainable. Even with some of these bonkers moves we're seeing out there, still coming in 10%, 130 right now with 323 names reporting out there. But again, we'll see how that holds up. People were pricing in less vol this cycle. So far, we are outperforming, though, which is fascinating. Speaking of fascinating, let's get to some of the fascinating flow. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
Everybody, let's get to it. The FLOWMASTER is excited for some flow, which means I am excited. Let's see what caught his eye out there first. Let's start in a name. We haven't talked about this one in quite some time. This is Pure Cycle Technologies, Inc., ticker symbol PCT, trading a little bit shy of $5 right now, up about a dime on the day out there today. Let's see. On the year, what kind of year is good old PCT having? Not a great year, unless you count nearly 40% to the downside, a great year. They were at about exactly $8 a year ago. They're about exactly $5 now, so off a little over $3. So rough year. They sold off early in March, contagion times, down to $4.68. Then they rallied it. They rallied it hard, up to nearly $12 in July. Everyone thought the bloom was back on the rose, but nope. They ripped that carpet right out from under them, and they went right back down. They hit their low for the year of $2.38. Man, that was just a few weeks ago on January 12th. Since then, they've obviously more than doubled. They're up to about $5 again. So in the last couple of weeks, doubling, that's not a bad chart. But on the year, and certainly since July, this one's looking pretty rough. But Mr. FLOWMASTER, what kind of paper did you spot out there today? Was it rough paper, you think?
It took me a few minutes to figure this one out. So I happened to see, average daily volume in this name is only 12,000 contracts. And so I saw a couple big prints. Basically, they both hit the tape on the Amex floor around 10:30 in the morning when the stock was at 484. And the first one to hit was 6,500 of the March 5.5 calls that traded on the offer at 72 cents. But then, like less than a second later, 7,800 of the March 6 calls traded 55 cents. And that was also offer side. And, I mean, we've watched the tape for a long, long time. And, the most common spread out there is a vertical call or put spread, right? So, somebody, that's putting on a directional position, but, happy to kind of cap the gains or cap the risk. And just turn it into more of a defined outcome. Now in this one, and that's what I thought it was. And then actually I saw the block of stock. There's a block of stock big enough that it matches the delta on both. So what it actually was, and then I checked with the floor to be sure. So this was actually a call stupid buyer tied to stock in the March 5.5s, about 6,500 of those, and about 7,800 of the March 6 calls. They're both opening. And so you end up with a put call in there of about 17,000 calls to 600 puts, very lopsided. They don't seem to have earnings anytime soon that I could see, but that's a pretty big position. I mean, they have earnings at the end of February, so these will include earnings, but they're Marches. So just an interesting, unusually large opening trade. We don't see a lot of stupids. That's kind of why they're called stupid.
Tied stupid. Yeah, you can count the number of those I've seen on one hand. Yeah, I think the name says it all when it comes to stupids. I've made my peace with, I've talked about stupids many times here on the network. Uncle Mike loves them. He and I have debated many times.
Placement. That actually might make some sense.
We actually talked about stupids on the Be Mean to Mark block when he wasn't here on the show, really? And how he trades them all the time.
I still have not listened to that for obvious reasons. So yeah, I knew you loved him. I knew you were the stupid defense force out there, pun intended. So yeah, if you want to talk stupids, Uncle Mike is your guy. I mean, this might be him. Maybe I'm talking out of school. Maybe we shouldn't reveal his hand. Maybe he loves doing these size, crazy, funky stupids. in his favorite name, PCT. Before we get him in trouble with his compliance for revealing all of his holdings, let's go on to another banger today, listener. You knew this one had to come up on the show. Yeah, this is freaking ARM. Man, I mean, what the hell? What can you say about this name? What a year. What a day. Forget the year. The year is today. It's up nearly 50 handles today. On the year, it's up 56.25. So the entire year came today. But yeah, a year ago, remember it went public not too long ago, much ballyhooed, very much underperformed in the early blush out there, heading into Halloween, like a lot of these other names that kind of sold off hard. It was at mid-60s, and it sold off down to, looks like about 46.5. And man, that level looks pretty good right now, because you're talking a 3x right now almost. You're at about a 120 even right now. So my goodness, this is Banger City out here. And Mr. Flowmaster, you said you were excited about what you saw in ARM. I know it takes a lot to get you excited, jaded Flowmaster that you are, sir. So what is it that caught your eye, and what could possibly be more excited? What could be more exciting, I should say, than a tied stupid?
Well, I'll tell you what's a little bit more exciting. So whenever we see kind of a very unusual move, whether it's a deal or whatever this is, the first thing I go look at is what are the, what recent big trades have there been, and what's the most recent open interest change, right? So open interest is, simply the number of contracts that are open for each strike, and it's only disseminated once a day after OCC clears everything. And so I looked at this one, and kind of interestingly, the two largest open interest changes. I mean, the volume was a little bit heavy into earnings. That's kind of normal, but 3,000 of the 70 puts were opened, and 3,000 of the 105 calls were opened. Both of those in the weeklies that expire tomorrow. So I said, well, I got to go look at both of these actually. And so, but I went to look first. I looked at the puts, and it looks like it was a put seller about 3,000 times, collecting like 270 or something. So I mean, that's fine. That people sell puts in front of earnings if they're very comfortable with the stock. Basically would have been happy to kind of take ownership of it. But then I looked at the call side. So the Feb 9th, 105 calls yesterday. They traded in relatively small lots, so almost 5,000 times. Most of them traded for 11 cents, and those topped $22 today. So this may be kind of like this is certainly going to be a record breaker for the year. I did the math. It's 18,000% return overnight. If they manage to buy them for 11 cents and sell out of them today. And, in terms of looking at flow, that seems to be either well-informed or just awfully lucky. This is a textbook case.
So you're saying this should go in our Trades of the Year dossier to break down at the end of the year, sir. It's going to be hard to beat this one, maybe.
Definitely open up a file on this one.
We'll keep a file. Hopefully, maybe the regulators are sniffing around this one as well. It could just be could be someone just specking and hitting the lottery in front of earnings. You never know. But when you see flow like this, you always have to wonder. Speaking of wondering, I always wonder what the meatball's up to down there in the land of Texas. And no, Mark, I know you have some trades that are on your radar as well. But really quickly, do you have any thoughts on this maybe trade of the year in ARM, as well as your favorite strategy, the Tide Stupid in PCT, sir?
And when you do a Tide Stupid, you're basically just turning the trade into a strangle in many ways. Or as Henry was suggesting, it might be a full-on stock replacement. The movement in ARM has been just absolutely stunning, and you can see the volume going for it. There was the open interest on those 105s expiring next week or expiring tomorrow, and the 100s. That's a nice move. That is a very nice move. And I mean, for tomorrow, Mark, do you know how many of the 150 calls have traded? Don't look. All right. How many of the 150 calls expiring tomorrow are trading in ARM right now?
150s. Oh my God. Up 10,000. Why not?
35,000 of them. They are currently 35-cent bid, Mark.
Okay, you know what? We're starting to lose all sense of reality again. This is 2021 Redux here. Oh my God, they're 35-cent bid. Excuse me, I need to go sell some calls. I'll be back in a little bit. My goodness, what model?
They're 40 bid now.
I missed it. Damn it! I was talking to you. You cost me a nickel. See what you do out there? Oh my God! Like what skew model? I mean, I get it. These are parabolic moves, so you kind of have to do that as a market maker. But still, I mean, whoa. Man, that's a covered call. I think you would do. That's a vertical. I think you would do.
Yeah. Or you could do like the ratio. You could do the ratio. You could buy the 125, sell 10 of the 150s, and take in a nice credit.
Sell 10. Yeah, I'm sure your broker would love that one. Oh, you got a little short upside. You might get a phone call and you put that one on. Wow. Ooh, that's forget you heard that one, listeners. That was a trip to the dark side. Instead, Mr. Meatball. Instead of getting our listeners blown out, let's go out to what did you spot? You spotted a funky one out here today as well, sir.
Yeah, I got two of them that I actually have one that I wanted to ask Henry about that went up yesterday in SRE. This is Sempra Energy, SRE. The trader traded opening a deep in the money put spread, and I'm not exactly sure what they were up to. So if you got a chance, take a look at that one. And then this is another funky one. This is a love your broker trade. A trader. What were the strikes on that? It was the TRTX. They bought 10,000 of the Jan 7.5s and sold the 10s 10,000 times. The 7.5s were bought for a quarter earlier in the day. The stock really hasn't moved, but I guess it's illiquid enough that this trader was able to basically run the pricing up to pay a full quarter for a 3.5 for an almost 100% out of the money call spread. So paying 60 for the 7.5s when the 5s are offered at 80 cents is a interesting trade to say the least. This is TRTX.
I'm looking at it right now, 9,900. That's a fun amount of the 7.5 10 call spread. Yeah, I think this market is great. The 7.5s were no bid at $1.80 when they went up for 60 cents. These are the markets I wish I could have made back. I probably would still be a market maker. If I could make a market no bid at 180, then history would have been different. There would have been no show. You and I never would have met, Mr. Meatball. Because
I know. Well, thank goodness those markets were some of this insanity is just kind of joining us now.
Yes,
but,
exactly.
You'd see stuff like this every now and again, but this is an interesting one.
Mr. Flowmaster, any comments on either of these? Either, what was it, SRE or TRTX, sir?
SRE, I agree, Mark. It's really weird. Like, almost for a second looked like maybe one of those put exercise dilution trades, but because there is open interest in the 75s, but they're not 100 delta. So I don't know. I have a friend on the box floor, which happens to be weirdly in the same building as the CBOE floor. And I put out a feeler. So if he has any comments on it, I will let you know.
All right, listeners, we said we are going to let you know, but we're coming up against it on these carrier prints, these huge prints we talked about in carrier. Looks like we have an answer to what was going up out there, but we're kind of coming up against this. Maybe we'll save that for the month. They will still be open. They're obviously February calls, so we'll have more time to talk about them. I think we have the writing on the wall for these now, but we'll keep an eye on them and keep on rolling into a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. You guys can play along, add options with our polls, questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Also gets at us. You can use the members hotline. It's like a lot of our live listeners do, hanging out in the live chat right now. A lot of them were debating what you were talking about, Henry, the crazy levels of SPX over the years. Some of them saying they remember it being at 666 right after the 08 financial crisis. So yeah, it has moved a lot, quite been. Also, as I expected, a lot of debate about 0 day, which I'd come to expect. I know a lot of our pro members more on the fence about that. We've got Options Queen saying she's interested in continuing to learn more about them. Age saying, Age of Del Aquarius, 0 DTE is nothing more than gambling. It's roulette without the cool ball, wheel, and cocktail waitresses serving free drinks. You know, it'd be cool if a CBOE had some cocktail waitresses walking around with your trades. That would be fun. Probably would also screw up your trading a little bit, but that's a conversation of another day. Option God saying, I can agree on Age's point, but I think I'll be more interested in 0 day when they have them on stocks like NVIDIA. I think they might make a little more sense out there. You can hedge earnings. You can hedge earnings, spec on specific events, and that kind of stuff. That doesn't exist in SPX or SPY right now. So yeah, there's a more specific use case, you're right, for the individual names than there are in general things like the index, unless you're talking about maybe a Fed announcement. Outside of that, there aren't really any earnings announcements in the indexes. So intriguing stuff out there. Speaking of earnings, let's get to that right now. That is our question of the week, listeners. Obviously, driving a ton of flow out there today. 450, 460. I've never seen a day with that much volume to break into the top 10 before. All of that on the back of earnings today, listeners. So our question right now, a very timely one. Earnings season is going strong. Big reports at the time you posted this from Microsoft, Apple, Meta, and Amazon. Now we could add in ARM and Disney to that list. And many more are moving the markets and driving volatility, which raises the question, how important is earnings season to your options trading? A very important, somewhat important, a little, I guess, or not at all. Mr. Uncle Mike, you were just raving about how much you loved the move in Disney out there, and also going on about how much you loved that stupid in PCT. So obviously, earnings season, a big driver for you. But what do you think our audience is choosing, sir? Very important, somewhat important, a little, I guess, or not at all?
I would say very important, because I do think we have a lot of people that play earnings, because we talk about them a lot on this show, and we have a very big listening audience. So that makes me think that's very important.
Very important vote for Uncle Mike. Mr. Meatball, same question for you, sir. You think our audience thinks earnings season is very important to their options trading, somewhat important, a little, I guess, or not at all?
I think they're going to go with very.
Very. Okay, we got two votes for very. All right, Mr. Flowmaster, do you agree? Are you 3 for 3? Or are you going to take the contrarian view, sir?
I think it's interesting. Earnings are interesting. I'm going to say not very important, though. Let's see. What's somewhat important? I'm going to go with that, because I think people get into it and then they have they have a bad experience eventually, and then they say, man, maybe next time I'll sit it out.
All right, so we got 2 votes for very important, listeners, 1 vote for somewhat important. How did you folks vote over there at options is the place to go. Right now, if you're leaning towards somewhat important, the FLOWMASTER way, you are winning the dance 46.7%. I know it was over half yesterday when we were doing boot camps. That has come in a little bit, but still pretty much half of you are saying it is somewhat important, which again, you can't say not at all really because it's obviously driving. Look at this market this week. But you have to at least be cognizant of it, even if you're not actively trading it. 26.7, though, say very important. So you're out there slinging trades around earnings names. I could see that. Active traders, you like to sling that stuff. Certainly drives a lot of vol. A little, I guess, is 20%. And then 6.7%, couldn't care less. You vote for not at all out there. So intriguing stuff. We also asked you last week, you said VIX has been below 15 since last November. If this continues going forward, how will this impact your vol trading? Are you going to do more debit or long premium trades, less credit or income trades, or you feel like VIX really has no impact on you? And that's what won. 35% saying no impact or immune to VIX, which sounds weird on the surface of it. But when people started writing in with what that meant to them, they were talking about trading a lot of the contango trades and a lot of the vol ETPs, which at the end of the day, is vol somewhat dependent, but it's more dependent on the contango out there. So the relative level of vol is not quite as important. That said, if vol is very low, kind of hard to get awesome erosion out there sometimes, but intriguing things nonetheless. So no impact, immune taking it, which is interesting, 35%, followed by more of you buying premium at 30%, fewer of you selling premium at 20%, and bringing up the rare with other out there. And also asked you this time on the show a week ago, we had a flash poll. We said, hey, what's leading the dance in the market right now? The Fed, earnings, election vol, or other. I think if we did this flash poll today, I think I know exactly how it would go. This time last week, though, it was the Fed took it with exactly 50% of the vote, followed by 40% for earnings. I'm sure that would be flipped, if not more, if we did that today. And then election vol coming in at 10% as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until the next episode. Mr. Uncle Mike, if you can peel yourself away from your screen full of stupids, what are you keeping an eye on until the Monday show?
Hey, you're the one that had stupids on your screen. It was said on this show, so it must be true. I'm watching the S&P 5000. I think that's the big little news, so to speak, right now. We'll see what we can do with it. I think that's what I think is driving the markets at this point, at least in the short term. Of course, everything else, but that's the main thing I'm watching right now.
Uncle Mike watching everything else. So keep your eyes glued to everything, including all those sweet stupids, listeners. Mr. Meatball, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping your eyes on until the Monday episode?
Yeah, well, interest rates. We just had a really good bond auction that kind of pulled us from maybe potentially rolling over to now we're back to flat on the day. I want to see if we break 5,000. And, we're building for CPI next week.
Mr. FLOWMASTER.
Should be a fun one with it happening on the day of VIX expiration. So I'll be interested to see where VIX prints next week.
These people have no respect for VIX settlement. They don't care. They don't care about vol traders, Mark. All right, Mr. Meatball, I should say, Mr. FLOWMASTER. The last word is yours, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next Thursday, sir?
I think SPX 5000 is going to be fun. I think there'll be headlines on it. I actually traded in and out of some 49.95 calls yesterday. I disagree with the fact with what you said about 0-day index options not really having a ton of use. Besides hedging and trading around catalysts like these big numbers. They really lend themselves really well to some systematic approaches. So, and then there's still some earnings to keep things interesting. And I'm looking at those ARM 150 calls right now. They were 40-cent bid. Now they're down to 30 cents. So there's some fun up in those wings too. So in fact,
Mark, you're already up money.
Don't tell anybody. That's what I was doing just now.
You can, 10 cents on a 40-cent option, that's 25% profit for somebody.
All right. While I'm busy slinging arm upside, let's get out of here, listeners. By the way, you're putting words in my mouth, Mr. Flowman. I was just echoing our chat. Our chat said they don't see the use case. And I said I could see some of that. I could see some of that where there is a more specific use case for a lot of single names than there are in the indexes all the time, because you can always find an earning, something else like that you want to hedge in a single name, versus the indexes, yeah, you have a couple of big events, but outside of that, really not a ton. So I could see more of that argument in the single names. But again, those are the words of our members. I just give them voice in the ether here. All right, listeners, that music means we are done, but not for the day, just for this show. Don't worry, I'll be back in a little bit to break down all the action going up in the CME futures options with our buddy, the once and future Dr. Vix. He loves talking all things futures options. I can't keep him out of that show. So he'll be joining me on the CME hot seat in a little bit. Stay tuned for that. If you're listening live, a hangout should be a fun one. We'll be back in a little bit. If you're listening after the fact, wait around a bit till later today, then hit next on your device of choice. Wherever you listen to podcasts, should be hanging out there waiting for you as well. And Mr. Flowmaster, sir, in the meantime, if folks want to get access to all these good goodies over there in the land of SIBO, maybe they can find some stupids for themselves. Where should they go? What should they do?
SIBO.com/RMA. You can request a trial and kick the tires.
If you built a Tide stupid scanner, I'd be the first one in line for it, sir.
Easy.
Huge money. I don't know why you haven't done it already. I'm handing you free dollars. It's like selling those 150s an arm. I'm handing you free money. Just take it. Take it, sir. Get your Tide stupids and much more over there. SIBO.com/RMA. Maybe one of these days we'll get that trade of the day out there for you folks, too. That'll be kind of fun. And Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want to debate the merits of Tide stupids or just about anything else with you, where should they go? What should they do?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. Check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. Always love talking to our listeners.
What if they're untied? What if they're naked stupids? Do you like those better?
I mean, I just got to take advice from you on that one, Mark.
I'm about to do a whole show just on naked stupids. Who wouldn't tune into a show called Naked Stupids? Come on. I'm giving myself free money, and I need to just take it. So in the meantime, if you want to talk naked stupids or anything else, Uncle Mike TOSAW, at Mike TOSAW on Twitter, the place to go, stcharleswealth.com. And last but not least, I don't think the Meatball talks about a lot of naked stupids, but he might be convinced to talk about maybe some upside in arm or maybe some funky strangles and VIX. Mr. Meatball, sir, where should they go if they want to talk about such things?
Yeah, come to optionpit.com. I'm putting out great volatility content just about every day. Optionpit.com.
I can see your buddy, the Rock Lobster, already chiming in on the show saying he's already doing battle with the Clam Pirates for the first time this year. So he's off to an early start. So I'm sure he's having fun up there on the shores of Maine. We wish him well in his battles. We wish you well in your trading, listener. That's going to do it for us on the old OB. Back again in a little bit for TWIFO. Then back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, for a little bit of the old volatility views. Who's going to join us in the hot seat? I guess you got to tune in to find out tomorrow on Vol Views. And then after that, of course, exclusively for you pro folks, heading on into a world of unusual activity on options oddities. You want to get that in your hot little hands. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. Then, of course, we're back again on Monday, another episode of The Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.